excited to be, got it. Excited to be working with Anthony, who I'm about to hand the mic, the proverbial mic to introduce himself.
Hello, I am Anthony Von Merchant of the Duluth Von Merchants, of course. Um, I am a professional actor, director, teaching artist, not writer, Melissa. Um, Absolutely not. And yeah, I'm really excited. I've been, doing the thing for the better part of 10 years now, in the city, sometimes even in Astoria. And yeah, we both really like really like this workshop. It's fantastic. It fits on a lot of levels. There is a world where you can spend literally an entire semester on this, creating work and deriving work from this. There's a world where you can do one class, and there are a multitude of worlds where you can do everything in between. So yeah, we really like this workshop, and yes, Melissa.
Yeah. Just a word on Zoom. We're going to try to work within this platform that, yeah, the best we can. It's a little triggering. But we also are going to try to describe the in real life way that you would work this, because you're not going, as Anthony has said, we're not going into
Zoom.
Zoom world tomorrow. So we'll try to replicate it as best we can via Zoom. But there you go. Anything else you want to say about that, Anthony, before we jump in?
Yeah, just to do your best as far as engagement goes, totally understanding that like people, life is life, Zoom is Zoom, and some people probably can't come on camera, and that's fine. But like if you have the choice to post something in the chat and versus saying it out loud, be like, just say it out loud. That's fine. Like we can be like, oh, hey, what about this thing? One of us will be facilitating the chat while the other one is doing the thing to the best of our ability. But it's also, you're like real people in the real world, so you can just say words.
You can also say words. I hide non-video participants, so all I'm looking at are people who are on camera, just because looking at people's names isn't very useful to me as a facilitator. I just wanted you to know that. So I know there are more people here than I can see. Great. So we're going to jump in the warm up that hello. The warm up that we're going to start with is yes, let's, which this whole lesson is a scaffolded experience, right? So you may be, as I often will say to students, you may be familiar with this exercise, but let's look at this exercise in the context of the ones that come after, the exercises and the activities that follow. Yeah. Yes, let's works like this. One person in the ensemble says, let's, and they do some kind of activity that sets us in a location. And they name that activity by saying, let's brush our teeth. And everyone else in the ensemble says, yes, let's. They literally say the words, yes, let's. And they all brush their teeth in their own way, not necessarily mirroring the leader, but interpreting it how that makes sense to you. So if I were to say, let's go grocery shopping, everyone would say, yes, let's. You would go grocery shopping in the way that you go grocery shopping. And stay in the room. Don't actually go grocery shopping. And then someone else within, I don't know, we establish that activity for 5-6 seconds before someone else says, let's, and reroutes us to another activity. Make sense? We can work within, I like getting up, so I'm going to probably stand up and do stuff. But if you're like, you know what, I'm sitting in a chair. Antonio looks like sitting in a very fantastic chair right now, for example. So if I was Antonio, I might not move from that chair. But I feel like I can get up and move. So it's up to you. You interpret it as you want to. I will start. I'll say let's, and everyone will say yes, let's, and they'll do the thing. Okay.
If I may, in the spirit of scaffolding, I'd say, and as you're taking this to your students, so Melissa gave the example of let's go grocery shopping, and the point is especially for this, as we scaffold this, is to be in the place where you get groceries. So that opens you up to like someone can be scanning the register, someone can be waiting in line, someone can be stocking shelves, someone can be like doing straight up shopping cart, but like it opens ourselves up to opportunities to be in this space. What else happens in the supermarket? Dig.
Right. Let's go to a surprise birthday party. Yes.
Yes,
Yes, let's.
No, but why though? Okay, Steve. Surprise, Steve!
All right.
I got you.
Okay, we're gonna play pin the tail on your mother. Okay. All right. So here we go.
Yes.
All right. Pin the tail on your
Yes.
mother. So okay. So we're gonna take the
Yes,
tail.
let's.
What kind of tail do you want? What kind of tail should it be? All right. Okay.
Okay. Oh, I think that we continue with the
Which-
birthday party. Someone else bring into us a new let's. Yeah.
Let's go to the hairdresser.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, let's.
Yes, let's.
I'm so I told him, I was like, no, the hell you are. You're not doing that to me.
So I really want to make these bits in the front a
Yeah.
little shorter. I
You're not
think.
gonna you're not
Yeah,
gonna
More
I like a
color.
weight line. I know it looks kind of ridiculous at my age, but I like a weight line on the edge right there. I think
Yeah,
it's-
let's just go for it. I trust
Okay.
you.
Let's all go to Six Flags.
Yes.
Yes, let's.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's.
I can't go any rides. I get sick.
Uh,
Can I have ice cream? I want ice cream. Can I have ice cream?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know.
I'm
I'll hold
lost.
everyone's
I can't find my
attention,
way.
but I
Just right
understand.
over there.
Great.
Your
Oh,
jacket.
yeah.
Amber.
No.
Yes.
Where
I
are you?
know
I threw
up
last time.
Okay.
It's
all right,
fine.
that's pretty good.
Let's go to
Let's all go get a seasonal beverage.
Okay.
Let's.
I'm actually going to stop. I'm going to stop you there, even though we're having a lot of fun with it. I'm going to stop you there. Also, this is an exercise that just gets us used to like going to places, jumping in activities, saying yes. The building on what you probably have introduced to your students by now is this idea of yes and, especially if you've done a unit on theater games or improv, right? So that takes us into what an exercise we call part of a whole. It's from like classic Viola Spolin, right? So the way that this exercise can work, we're going to do a little variation today, but the typical exercise is somebody enters onto stage, they start a mimed activity, and then everyone's thinking to themselves, oh, that looks like she's cutting some kind of like carrots. She's probably in a kitchen. So someone else comes on and they start, mixing something or, doing the dishes or what have you. And then a couple more people on, and you start to create that space through activity, nonverbal. We want to try one where it's just two people. And Anthony and I are going to demonstrate. If you would like to if everyone could take off their cameras just for a moment so we can focus in spotlight on me and Anthony, make sure you're in gallery view. And we'll just demonstrate, and then we'll have two more people come on camera and give it a shot. All right. So the way this works is Anthony's going to do he hasn't told me what it is, by the way, just in case you're wondering. I don't know never know what Anthony's going to do, but in this particular case, this is really, really true. So he's going to give a nonverbal activity offer. This is not an emotion. It's a literal mimed activity. Okay. He's going to do that activity. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to add to it. And then I may add some text to help lock it down. Okay. Doctor, I feel like you might need this.
Thank you, nurse.
I'm kind of nervous. This is my first time.
No need to be nervous. Just keep the suction coming and keep an eye on the vitals.
All right. All right. So that's our little demo. It's literally not a full scene, just Anthony starting off with the gloves in the thank you for coming back on camera. In the where were we? What's our setting?
The doctor's office.
Yeah, it's like surgery room. Hopefully this isn't happening in a doctor's office or someone is cutting you open, but it can happen.
Oh, okay.
listen. Yeah, and then I'm coming in, I'm adding another activity, I'm handing him a tool, and I'm saying yes to that, and I'm adding to it just like we did in Yes Let's. So can I just see, can we
Can
see?
you get the bedroom?
Did you get the bedroom?
I did.
Sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. It's okay.
No worries.
So we're gonna have two people give it a try. One person's gonna start with a physical activity, nonverbal. The next person's gonna yes and it, maybe even add a piece of text to help lock in that environment. Okay. Great. So two people. Yes, Jenny and
Effie.
Effie. Excellent. Okay. Let's go. So everyone except for our two players should be off camera. Great.
Going 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. A little bit higher. Higher arms. Right there. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and plie.
And beautiful. That's it. That's great. Lovely. All right, everyone back on camera again.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Fantastic. I love it. It seemed like you guys had like sort of mind meld moment there. It was like so
It's
seamless.
friends. That's why.
Oh, you are, because I was like, wow, you didn't even miss a beat. There was a moment. That's great. So we had Jenny come on, establishing the nonverbal activity of dancing, of going through that warm up, and Effie comes in and just completely says yes to it, becoming the instructor and the relationship. That is the scaffolded activity that leads us to our opening, the sort of frame of how we're going to look at our newspaper article, which is what Anthony's going to lead, which is something called ERCR.
Indeed. So building off of that, we have, I didn't write it in the chat, Melissa.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it.
Fantastic. So building on that, we have an environment, relationship, conflict, and resolution, ERCR. Can we do this with nonverbal cues as well? Absolutely. Environment, especially, as we will find, is going to be nonverbal. So we will start with, we'll have 4 people. The first person I'm going to choose at random, Jamie Thiessen. You're going to be with us. Forgive me for mispronouncing if I did. Jamie, you're going to be the environment. Who did not? MJ Phillips. You will be the environment relationship. Excuse me. You'll be the relationship. Antonio, in the incredibly comfy chair, you will be our conflict. And Rebecca Lewis Whitson, would you mind being our resolution?
Yes. What does that mean?
Not a problem. I got you.
Okay.
As we did in the last exercise, our environment, Jamie, will come out and start a nonverbal like offer. We would call it an offer or even a gift, nonverbal offer of a place that we were in, right? Our second person, I believe I said that was MJ. Yes. Yes, MJ. So you're going to come in and then you get to say something, a sentence, a phrase, nothing crazy long. You don't have a monologue, but like a sentence or phrase that indicates your relationship and probably locks down. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And probably locks down our location, right? Or sorry, excuse me, our relationship. Excuse me. The phone rang and threw me off. It solidifies our relationship, right? So that could be anything. I think naming is very important here. That could be, like, hey, dad, that can be Mr. Benson, that could be, it can be a title, or it can be an actual name, but identifying what this relationship is between two people. Then our third person, Antonio in the big comfy chair, you're going to roll in and introduce a conflict of some kind. Now, conflicts can be large or small. Conflicts can be, they can be, I lost my keys, and they could be the bomb is dropping, and anywhere in between. And then last but not least, Rebecca, to your question, you will give us a resolution of some kind. Now I'm putting the cart in front of the horse on this one, but heads up, a resolution is an ending. It is not necessarily a happy ending. Not all endings are happy, but all endings are endings. Cool. So we'll put an end to that problem in some way, shape, or form or another. Everyone cool in the game? Got what we're doing? Fantastic. If everyone else that isn't these amazing four wants to pop off, and if you want extra points, you can pop on in order, but I will not stress you like that. All right, everyone ready? Let's go with 3, 2, 1, curtain.
Mom, I told you not to stress yourself out. Let me help you.
I would really appreciate some help. This is gross.
Well, you know what? Every time I tell you to chill out, you don't listen to me.
Well, I mean, if you wouldn't make such a mess like this.
Well, you know what? I told you that I was working on my science project and it was going to get hot and heavy and I would handle it.
Okay.
So
but
let's
can you
give-
explain all this goop on the floor?
Let's make sure that we give our next ensemble member space to get in there and introduce what they need to introduce.
Everything is on fire. I was working on my son experiment. Everything is on fire.
Oh my god. Oh my god. What do we do?
Where's
What do
the
we do?
extinguisher?
I think it's in the kitchen.
It's expired.
What? Well, all right. This is a grease fire.
And now space for Rebecca to come in.
We've just found one piece of mail that has not burned down. And did you just play the lottery? I think we just won the lottery. I think we can buy a whole new house.
That's great because
Great.
this one is done.
End scene. Perfect. All right. Excellent. Thank you, everyone. Can pop up back on video. Perfect. Cool. So in the I would be more stringent with your students to be like, everyone gets one line. That way you won't veer off into letting someone come in. It's like, it's just like, Mom, I told you not to stress yourself out. And maybe Jamie gives us what I call a soft yes. We're like, I know you're right, but I just need to I need to feel busy, whatever. Something that is just like very lightly saying yes. They're not introducing a conflict. They're just accepting the gift that has been given of they are mom, and they're accepting it and saying, yes, I am mom. And you're right. I do stress myself out. And then boom, that's Antonio's time to come in and be like, the whole place is on fire. Everything's burning, which is fantastic, which is an excellent conflict. And again, we go like, maybe there's a soft yes, a very quick, like, oh my God, what do we do? But really immediately afterwards, like Rebecca's in there with some sort of a resolution. Not a bad resolution. Yeah, it's not a bad resolution. It definitely gives us an ending. My only thing in my mind is that we've done a time jump, a little bit of a time, like that house burned down really fast. But at the end of the day, it was like, it was like that. That's fine. I think there's a way that you could have taken that resolution and just made it more immediate, right? You're like, oh, I've gotten out, and the only thing I've saved is this piece of mail, just so that it's like in that moment. But not that there was anything wrong with the actual offer. You know what I'm saying? Great. So fantastic. Does that make sense how it would work in the room? Is that clear to everyone how it works in the room? And again, that's just giving everyone an opportunity to be responsible for one aspect of those 4 important details of storytelling, right? Cool.
Yeah, and the idea is basically you can structure it multiple different ways. You can assign students in advance. The important thing is that they don't figure out in advance what they're going to do for the improv part of it, right? So they're not planning it. They're walking on stage and exploring it on the stage. Yeah. So those 4 pieces: environment, otherwise known as setting; relationship, who are you and who are you engaged with on stage; conflict; and then resolution again. How does this piece end? How does the scene end? That question, we're going to look at that in terms of a monologue that you're about to hear that sets us into looking at newspaper theater. Okay. So Anthony and I selected a news article about a pretty intense topic, right? And kind of inspired by some of our work on human rights in theater, exploring human rights violations in theater, in theater practice. And we're going to hear a monologue that Anthony wrote yesterday. right? You wrote it yesterday? Yeah. And I want you to, in the chat, when you hear it, you're going to identify the ERCR in the monologue, okay? So when you kind of hear where the setting might be, when you hear who he is and who he is talking to, what the conflict is, and then at the end, if you can identify the resolution, you're going to identify it as you go in the chat, okay? It'll be an active listening. And for the effect, the theatrical effect, you can either, you know how to do the Zoom, I think, right? You can pin Anthony Merchant, or you can do a speaker view so that it just gives him, or maybe I'll spotlight you for everyone. Let me see if I can do that. Yeah, did that work? Okay, see, I remember Zoom. All right. So we're going to, I'm going to give you a 3, 2, 1 curtain, Anthony, and then we're going to all respond in the chat. Great. And 3, 2, 1 curtain.
Mr. Stillheart, okay, please give me a moment of your time. Listen, I don't have long, and I'm lucky that a simple bank teller would have any time to speak to someone so high ranking at the Red Cross, but I must let someone know. I know things may seem normal to you, but after all, I mean, here we are in a bank, right? But look closer, sir. We're a bank with no money. I barely have enough Afghani to make change in my drawer, and if you ask to look in the vault, you'll find it empty. It's so empty that some of the workers have started to call the vault the pantry because it's just as empty as their cupboards at home. And, sir, do you see how there are no women here? Even on the television in the lobby where we play the lazy daytime soaps, while people wait in line to be told we don't have cash to give them, even there are no women allowed to be seen. Look at our customers, sir. They're all fathers with their little girls with them. And you will not believe me when I tell you that these men have come here in the hope of selling their daughter to the bank. That's it. That's what hope looks like for them now. That if they can sell their own children to the bank, then she won't be sold off to these old men, and they might have a chance to see her again. I had a man come in here today begging me to take his daughter for just a few Afghani, enough so it could feed the rest of his family. That's what he said. And even the girl, this child, even though she was scared, she said she promised that she wouldn't be a problem and that she could learn to cook and clean. Mr. Stillheart, I don't know what you can do, but it's more than me. Please help us.
Yes, Anthony. Yes. Written and performed by Anthony Von Merchant. I'm going to remove spotlight. Okay, great. So thinking about ERCR, so what is the specific setting that
Bank.
Anthony's bank? Yeah, inside or outside? If you imagine it
Seems
on
inside the bank, maybe in the bank loan manager's office, something like that.
Yeah. So if you think as a set designer, like, bank can mean, it could be right outside on the steps of the bank. It could be at the teller. It could be in the office. So you imagine it, Neil is imagining it in the office, like that he's burst into this office, right? Now, what about the relationship? Who is Anthony? Who is he talking to? And what is their relationship? Maybe status wise and other. What do you think?
So he's speaking to a Red Cross worker.
Mhm.
So the Red Cross worker obviously has some sort of power over him just in terms of resources. It almost makes me feel like the bank has been repurposed as some sort of shelter for a community under siege. And this man who worked in this bank is appealing to this person who's a member of a group who have come to help for help. Yeah.
Great. Do you feel like Anthony, does that accurately represent like the relationship, describe the relationship?
Yes, I do.
Okay, very good. All right. So in terms of conflict, sometimes you can think about conflicts in ways that are like, this is the theme, right? But like, what is he thinking about, like, as an actor, what is he playing? What does he want from this Red Cross person, right? Like, what does he want? How does he, if he won the scene, he'd get What?
You get money.
Money, support, help, right? He's trying to get action, money, support, help from this guy. And he knows he wins the scene if he gets that, versus like the conflict is human rights, or whatever it is, right? It's like you want to know, like, what am I trying to get, right? From this person, right? In the Romeo and Juliet balcony scene, there's a conflict. Juliet wants Romeo to leave because it's too dangerous, and Romeo wants to stay because he's in love, right? Even though it's a love scene, there's a conflict in that scene. So in this scene, the conflict is about trying to get the resources that helps to support the money to be able to handle this crisis. So what is the resolution? Does Anthony's character get what he wants at the end?
We don't know.
It's a cliffhanger. I feel like the resolution is, ball's in your court. I have stated my case and now I'm waiting for a response, right? And that's a resolution might be like, well, we don't know yet because the next monologue is going to be like, listen, I wish I could help you. Or, you know what, you've inspired me and now I'm going to step in. I have someone I can call, and then we're like, whoa, we're in a new place. Because you want the beginning of a scene to be different than it is at the end of a scene, right? You want something to happen. And that's what resolution really means in this context. So we're going to, we have some guesses about what the human rights violation is.
Yeah, save young girl from sexual marriage, slavery for money, resources.
Right.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is about child brides, forced marriage. And we're going to find out more. We're going to actually read the article and then look at how this is usually what we do when we're modeling the process of the newspaper theater workshop, where we say, here's a model of an example. Then we look at the newspaper article and read it together. And then we're going to build a stakeholder chart together to build new characters, new possibilities theatrically as a class, as an ensemble. All right, so here we go. We're going to look at this article together. The way that we're going to read it is there's going to be a new speaker on every paragraph, and that speaker is going to perform as a reporter, as an empathetic correspondent from CNN. Okay. So when you're reading, you're not just reading it like you're reading something without a perspective. You're reporting. Okay. I'm going to do the first paragraph and then someone else is going to jump in on the second and so forth. I'm just going to share the screen. Everyone can see it? Okay.
Yes.
Afghanistan child marriages, 9-year-old bride is taken to safety. We typically do this in a class all together. We read the whole headline together. Zoom, we tried that in the morning. It's really hard when people read stuff all together. It sounds hard. Okay, so I continue. Driving through a snow-capped mountain pass, the young mother huddles together with her 6 children in the back seat of a car after leaving their makeshift camp in northwestern Afghanistan. Carrying only a blanket for warmth, 9-year-old Parwana Malik balances on her mother's lap beside her siblings. As the family is rescued by an aid group that saves girls from child marriage. I am really happy, Parwana said during the journey. The charity rid me from my husband, and my husband is old.
Last month. Go.
Last month, CNN reported that Parwana and several other underage girls were being sold by their fathers so other members of their families could eat. At that time, Parwana's father, Abdul Malik, said she cried day and night before begging him not to sell her, saying she wanted to go to school and study instead. After an international outcry as a result of CNN's story, Parwana was returned to her family due to the backlash from the community against the buyer. The United States-based nonprofit Too Young to Wed, TYTW, had also got involved to relocate the girls, their siblings, and their mothers to a safe house. This is a temporary solution, said Stephanie Sinclair, the founder of TWTY. But really, what we're trying to do is prevent girls from being sold into marriage.
Afghanistan under pressure. Afghanistan's economic lifelines have been severed since mid-August, when the Taliban assumed control after American and allied forces departed. Billions of dollars in central bank assets have been frozen. Banks are running out of cash and wages have gone unpaid for months. Now, aid agencies and rights groups, including Human Rights Watch, are warning that the country's poorest people are facing a famine as the brutally cold winter takes hold. More than half of the country's roughly 39 million population will face emergency levels of acute hunger by March, according to a recent report by IPC, which assesses food insecurity. The report estimates that more than 3 million children under the age of 5 are already suffering acute malnutrition.
The international community is turning its back as the country teeters on the precipice of man-made catastrophe, said Dominic Stillhart, Director of Operations for the International Committee of the Red Cross, ICRC, who just returned from a 6-day visit to Afghanistan. Even before the Taliban took over, hunger was rife in this impoverished country, and now young girls are paying the price with their bodies and their lives. Afghan young girls becoming price of food. Leading Afghan women's rights activist Mohuba Siraj told CNN, because otherwise their families will starve. Even though their marriage under the age of 15 is illegal nationwide, it has been commonly practiced for years, especially in more rural parts of Afghanistan. And the situation has deteriorated since August, as families become more desperate.
Usually there is a lot of misery, there is a lot of mistreatment, there is a lot of abuse involved in these things, Siraj, adding that some girls forced into marriage die during childbirth because their bodies are too small to cope. Some of them can't take it. They mostly die pretty young. Women have long been treated as second-class citizens in Afghanistan, which was ranked as the worst country in the world for women in the 2021 Women, Peace, and Security Index. And since the Taliban took over, many of the basic rights that women had fought for over the past 2 decades have been stripped away. Limits have been imposed on girls' education. Women are banned from certain workplaces, and actresses can no longer appear in TV dramas.
After a 4-hour journey through mountain roads, Parwana's family arrived late at night at a small hotel in Herat, Afghanistan's 3rd largest city. They were escorted on their journey by a local representative of Too Young to Wed, along with the mother, Reza Gul, and her brother, Payinda.
Reza Gul and Payinda told CNN Parwana's father had initiated her sale against their wishes. Of course, I was angry. I fought him and I cried, Reza Gul said. He said he didn't have any option. CNN was given permission to film Parwana's sale on October 24th to a 55-year-old man with white hair for cash, sheep, and land worth around $2,200 or 200,000 Afghanis. My father has sold me because we don't have bread, rice, and flour, Parwana told CNN at the time. He has sold me to an old man. The buyer, Korban, told CNN it would be his second marriage, and he insisted that Parwana would be treated kindly.
Parwana's mother said her daughter begged to return home to her family and was allowed a few visits back to their camp. She said that they beat her and she didn't want to stay there, Reza Gul said. They treated me badly. They were cursing me. They were waking me up early and making me work, Parwana added.
After the CNN story into Parwana's situation was published, the community outrage which the buyer Korban received pushed him into hiding, according to the family. CNN has since been unable to reach him or his family for comment. In a follow-up CNN interview, Parwana's father said he also came under criticism and he felt pressured to change his story on the marriage in interviews with some local media outlets. He confirmed his original interview with CNN and apologized. About 2 weeks after her sale, Parwana was returned to her family, but her father still owes the equivalent of $2,200 to the buyer. He had used the proceeds to pay off other debts.
They gave me a new life. Parwana and her 5 siblings were finally tired from the long drive and the sensory overload of the bright lights and traffic of the city. But once settled, they soon started rolling around and giggling together on the bed, enjoying their new adventure. After 2 nights at the hotel, the family transferred by Too Young to Wed's team to a nearby safe house, Parwana's first experience of living in a real home. For the past 4 years, the family lived in a tent in a camp for internally displaced persons, IDPs, in Kuala Na, in Baghdad's province. I'm feeling so happy in this house, Parwana told CNN. They gave me a new life. I feel happy and safe here, said Rezgul. My children are eating well since we came and are playing, and we are feeling happy. The family will stay in the house through the winter months and be supported and protected by TYTW, which routinely conducts this type of rescue. The longer-term plan for Parwana's family is still unclear. Stephanie Sinclair of TYTW added, and will depend on funding for their shelter.
It is a moral imperative that the international community does not abandon the women and girls of Afghanistan, Sinclair said. Every life matters, and the lives that we can save will better the experience of their whole family and their community. Separately, TYTW is also trying to deliver food aid into the Kuala Na camp, which is home to around 150 people. This is also aimed at helping Parwana's father as he stays back there to try to work off his debt. He gave permission to TYTW to rehouse his wife and children. We are happy that Parwana is rescued, the father said before his family left. We are happy that TYTW will help us and they will provide a place for living in Afghanistan, are also calling for more coordinated action to help the country's poorest people. Parwana, now freed from a life spent with a husband 6 times her age, is excited about the prospect of attending school. I would like to study to become a doctor, Parwana said. I would like to study to serve my people.
Great. Okay. Now this article, it's a little longer, a little bit more sophisticated than maybe some classrooms. We can go into like which article for which situation. But I mean, I'm very drawn to it because of this, the hardship and the horror that you experience, and then you're coming to some hope and some lift at the end, and centering around one person. So I would love if Anthony, if you could drop the link to the article in the chat, that would be really great. And then similarly, what we're going to do is build together. We're going to put a
Jamboard first
as well. What was that?
I did the Jamboard first.
Oh, you did the Jamboard first. Okay, great. So what we're going to do is we're going to build a stakeholder chart together from this article. So imagining that at the center of who's at the center of this story? Who's the central main starring character?
Parwana.
Parwana.
Okay. Parwana. All right. So Parwana is at the center of the story. So we'll typically not obviously do this on a Jamboard. I guess you could do this on the smart board on a Jamboard. But typically I use a big Post-it or use a board or dry erase board and place at the center the main character in the news article. And then around it in the yellow circle there who are some of the people named in the article who are directly connected to Parwana. Like they have direct access to her.
Father.
We start to father. So Parwana's father's name is
Can't see it anymore.
I think Anthony just is dropping the article in the chat as well, so you have access to that. But I think his name is Abdul. There's an Abdul Malik. No, that's a different person.
No, yes, but the open access to the
article.
I posted it. I posted it in the chat, but I can't open up the access to it.
Okay. Sorry about that. That should be.
I had it a second ago. So many things open.
I know, right?
Now it's
anyone.
saying
If
I
you could
need
like
permission.
share, put anyone with the link.
I did that. Yes,
yeah.
I did. I don't know. So weird. Okay. I'm gonna try. Maybe if I send it, maybe that changes.
Yep, I got it from yours.
Okay. It's just the person who shares it, right? So right, let me go back into
You
the
want the
share.
father's name?
Yeah.
Abdul Malik.
Right. So we're starting to think about brainstorming people named in that article who are either in direct contact with our main character or indirect, right? So the person who works, the bank worker is someone who maybe is really upset about what's happening with Parwana, sees what's going on with these girls, but isn't someone who is directly connected, might be in a more of an external, indirect stakeholder. So looking at the article, just quickly brainstorming some characters that you think, oh, that's interesting. They are named in the article. You're just going to take like a minute and see if you can add some sticky notes onto this chart.
Where do I up in the top?
Where do you get the sticky notes?
Yeah,
You
there's
get right here on the
sticky note.
the
Got
left. Yeah.
Oh, I have to have access though to this trying to connect. Okay.
Yeah, you can change the color of the sticky note. Fun. But you can and you can move the sticky note to different places, right? Right. So like who is in her inner circle, right? And now I want you to start to imagine equally, you can continue pulling pulling characters from the article, but I want you to imagine that this CNN reporter who's reporting on this left people out. There's a best friend, there's a grandmother, there are other characters who are not, as all news, no news article ever written has included every stakeholder, right? So I want you to now add any characters that you think maybe are not in this article that live in your imagination, given what you know. And you can add those people too. Think about individual people as opposed to, in the last workshop, someone wrote the United States. It was like, that's you're not going to play the United States in this scene, right? You're going to play a particular character, right? Rather than thinking about like a citizen, think about which citizen, right? An uncle. Oh, I love that. The Korban's children, what do they think about this? And specifically maybe his daughter or his son, right? You know?
Yeah, I also really like the first wife. That's cool.
Oh, I love that.
That's thoughtful. Debt collector. That's great.
And ghosts are viable too. Ancestors, ghosts, you know, like it's theater. You can do what you want. Thinking about these kind of things. Now, we would spend a little bit more time cooking on this, but for the purposes of this, you can take any character from this chart, but you can also like check out the other chart that was made in the last workshop as well. I'm gonna give you 60 seconds to choose a character, commit to it by writing it down somewhere, somewhere where you're gonna write a little short monologue, a notebook, your phone, if you have a pen. I like writing on paper a lot. So you're gonna take a quick scan of this chart, and you're gonna choose a character that you want to write from their perspective. So I'm choosing the TYTW rep. So I'm gonna write that down. Okay. So you got 30 more seconds. Just commit. Write down the name of the character that you want to write from. You're writing from their perspective. Yeah. It's just whatever strikes you. Former husband, debt collector, mom. Okay, 10 more seconds to commit to your decision. You need to make this decision in order to do the next steps. Write it down. Great. Now, I want you to think about either the next step is to think, where is this person? Or you can think, who is this person talking to? And therefore, where are they? Okay. So I want you to start to construct an ERC. What is the setting? Who am I and who am I talking to? And what's the argument between us? What's the problem? Okay. So my rep might be trying to communicate with the father about how I want to try to help Parwana, but I need his support in order to do that, right? I need to be able to convince you that I need to intervene on this and I need you to trust me. I'm trying to get your trust. Okay. So where could that be? Would it be I pulled him into my office? Or do I knock on the door and go to his home? Right? So you're thinking about who are you? Who are you talking to? And where are you? And what might be the problem? So you're going to jot down a couple notes on that. I'm going to give you about 2 minutes to just jot down notes on who are you, who are you talking to, and where are you? Now 2 minutes. And I said about 2 minutes. It's been about 90 seconds. And here's the assignment. What you're going to do is you're going to write the first few lines of a monologue from the perspective of your character that communicates that environment, relationship, and conflict. So if we hear back Anthony's monologue, would you be able to just read the first like 3 lines of your monologue, Anthony? And let's remind ourselves of how we can do that. Go ahead.
Mr. Stillheart, please give me a moment of your time. Listen, I don't have long. I'm lucky that a simple bank teller would have any time to speak to someone so high ranking at the Red Cross, but I must let someone know.
Right. So we got an idea of who he is, who he's talking to, where he is in the beginning of like, I've got to get your help on this, the beginning of that conflict. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to write the first few lines, maybe 3 or 4 lines of a monologue in a specific location to a specific person with a need. Okay. You have 3 minutes on the clock to write those 3 lines. Okay, so we're just going to hear a couple, and again, it's just the beginning, right? This is a bit of a truncated experience, right? So we're gonna just hear like where you're starting with these pieces. So let's hear a couple of them. Great, Jacqueline.
Hi, Abdul. My name is Violet Thelke. I'm with the organization Too Young to Wed. I need to talk to you about your daughter, Pawana. Can you please let us in?
Great. Super clear. We know where they are, right? Who, right? Where do you think, Jacqueline, where do you think this goes? What becomes the conflict in the scene? Oh, you're breaking up a bit, but we can imagine, I think, what it is. Awesome. All right, let's hear a different one. Yes, Tony, let's go. Tony, then Jim.
Thank you so much for inviting me to come on your show today. I still don't really understand how it happened, but my mom told me that part's not important. You have the opportunity to really make a difference. So basically, I saw something on TikTok about this terrible situation, and I just kept thinking that could be me. So I wanted to offer to adopt this girl or help her some way, but nobody seems to know how. And if other girls my age knew this, I think they would really want to do something. So, and that's what I got
Right,
to.
right. I think you wanted to keep going, right? Awesome. So really super clear setting. Of course, picking your environment can lead to, by the fact that you picked that, it led to, I'm sure, other things, right? Knowing that you're on a broadcast and you're speaking to somebody that has an audience like that, right? Awesome. Great. And Jim.
Mom, we shouldn't have sent Parvana back to that man. She should be here at our dinner table. We have to get help to save her.
Yes, yes. Really clear need, really clear relationship, dinner table. We're not even inside the house. It's like, we know that's how specific it gets, right? I think thinking as a set designer of like, where is this? If the light was to hit the stage, we'd know exactly where we were, right? And it's yeah, really, really super clear. So when you perform and share these pieces, sometimes I'll say, all right, everyone who, can I just get everyone who was in one of the directly connected to Parwana. Let's get 5 people up and let's have Parwana stand in the center, and anyone who's speaking to this character come up, or find different ways to slice it so that you can have these performance moments even at the end of a first session. Well, cool. So before we go back to that main session, let's just take a moment and reflect a bit on the workshop. What were some takeaways or things that you noticed about the workshop, or any questions that you might have? Some rapid fire reflection in our 55-minute set. We usually have more like 80 minutes for these kind of sessions, but here we go. So some thoughts and reflection. Yafi.
I really appreciate the graphic organizer, because I'm usually kind of lost somewhere in the process, and that was really helpful to put everything there and for the kids to see it and then pick from one of the ideas. And I just found it a fantastic idea. Thank you so much.
Great, awesome. Yeah, I find it helpful. It's hard to keep track of all the characters otherwise, right?
And
yeah.
analyze the story. The way that you analyze the stories through that was really helpful, because every story has so many different perspectives. Where do I start from? Where do I go? Especially from newspapers, it's kind of chaotic a lot sometimes. So it helps also do the dramaturgy and analyzing the characters of.
Someone asked in the last workshop, what about time? And I think that is very flexible, very open. You could say it's 20 years later. You could say it's happening right before the event. It happens right after. You don't have to be like, it has to happen at this moment, in time. You can let that be creative. MJ?
I was going to say I always enjoy starting an activity with an improvisation because it really gives you a chance to think on utilizing like what you know as a person before you even get into any kind of a text. So I think that that established, you know, what you're looking for while you're reading the article, while you're creating character. You know, I think it's so adaptable, especially in a middle school setting. I always worry with text because the minute they see a text in a theater class, they're like, "Well, I don't want to do," you know. So I think to start with an improv, knowing that they understand the concept and then going into articles really is a great way to get them engaged into it.
I wanted to add, you probably know News ELA. Yeah. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but that's a great, and it often will have translations into Spanish and other languages too. And they have different grade levels in terms of articles. But I do want to say that I appreciate that, MJ, about the improv too. But I think that it's really important to remember that when you're choosing an article, to place a human at the center of the story, to make, that's my criteria. I don't want to just give context to students. I want to like say, okay, this is the person or two people that are at the center of this human rights issue or social justice issue. It's about the woman who stood in the sundress at the, you know, in Baton Rouge, you know, at the police, and she stood there and refused to move. That is a lot more accessible as a news article than just going police brutality, right? And looking at statistics and data. So humans are my litmus test. Is this a good article? Cool. Thank you for the additional things in the chat. I'm going to get in trouble with Peter Avery if I don't send you off to your main session. And any chance you could put the link to the main sesh in that you already did? Oh, there we go. Boom. That's the link. I'll see you on the other side.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just great.